Hey everybody, welcome to Example of Play, the home for strategy, tactics, and more. If you haven't subscribed already, now's your chance. This video is going to be the first in a little series I'm going to do on a game that is, frankly, unlike any game you've ever played before. This is Heart of the Machine, and it is a 4X RPG story-driven experience where you awaken as a sentient AI in the far future in a dystopian cyberpunk city, and then the game opens up and you go from there, and you can do basically any trope you can imagine from sci-fi, dystopian, cyberpunk movies and media. This game lets you play the role of the rogue AI that's come to life and is now loose in the world. And the way it works is just so interesting and fascinating to me. It's just a very different experience from any game I've ever played before. Now, the developer of the game, they're the same ones who did AI War 1 and 2, which if you've ever played those, they were space RTS 4Xs that were unlike Stellaris, where you're building out this empire and you're fighting with your neighbors and you're growing more and more powerful from a weak starting point, where everyone kind of starts on the same page for the most part. The AI War games had you playing as the last survivors of humanity in space against these massive AI empires that had already won, and your goal as the humans was to kind of fight an asymmetrical battle where you exploited the weaknesses of the AI to find your way to victory. And you couldn't really like brute force it. Like, you built tons of units, but it was never about direct combat. It was about probing and finding weaknesses, and then the AI responding to what you were doing, and then you trying to stay one step ahead of it. And so this game is like that in a sense, but now you're the AI and humanity is surrounding you in this futuristic city, and you have to find a way to your victory. But there are many different paths to victory in this game, and as you play, it expands in scope and complexity to where you're playing multiple timelines and like bending time and space to your will. It gets kind of crazy as the game goes on, and I haven't beat it yet. I haven't played through all the way to the end of any of it yet, but it's kind of epic in scope, but so deep in lore, and basically everything you do in the game is built into the story. It makes sense within this world. It makes sense within what's logical, and it's a really fascinating experience. And so this video, I'm gonna try to keep it short and not ramble too much, but it's basically kind of give you an idea of what this game's about. And then in the next few videos, I will go back and start the game over. This is a few hours into a playthrough, but I'm gonna go back to the beginning because it is a really ambitious, complex, multi-layered game, but also that means it might be a little hard to get into for some people. So if you're wanting to get into it, I'm gonna do the example of play thing and give you kind of some tips of how I found my way through the prologue in chapter 1, and then this is at the beginning of chapter 2 where the game really opens up and lets you explore a lot of different paths. Alright, so I've talked about the game kind of conceptually and how awesome it is. How does it actually handle and play? What's the moment-to-moment gameplay like? So it's a 4X in a sense. It is turn-based, so although you see these like cars moving around and stuff, they're just kind of the environment. There's the visual effect. The units are all static until you move them, and then when it's your turn is over, then the AI, the humans in this game, they get a chance to move, which right now things are peaceful, nothing's happening, but you could be in combat where whenever you end your turn, your units are going to get attacked, enemy units are going to move around. So you want to maximize each turn because you have a limited amount of mental energy, and that's kind of your overall action points, and then those are shared when you have your individual units act. So if we look here, we have a variety of units available. I'll zoom in on one of the most basic ones. So this is a technician android. When you start the game, you're basically one of these guys, just kind of a manual labor robot. And if we want to like move it around and have it do something, we just right click and it just hops over there. So it's all turn based. So it's just as you take actions, your units move around and do stuff. But if we look at it, we can see this unit's got all kinds of different stats. We can look here and see it's got an ability bar that has a bunch of different abilities. If we look up here, hardware, these are all our different types of androids and vehicles we have right now. And then each class can be customized. You open it up and now you can choose what their special abilities they have equipped are, what kind of like weapons and armor and augmentations they have. And as you play, you unlock more of these things, and they're all different, and they all feed into what kind of play style you're doing. Like, what are you trying to accomplish? And you can set up your different classes in different ways. And as you can see, there's a ton of different ones. There's like the basic technician. So it's not really a great fighter, but it can do things that other ones can't. So it's like non-threatening. So you can send it into kind of mundane places to take some actions for you. But then you also have like a combat unit that's for fighting or just intimidating people. You have like this PMC imposter who looks like a human soldier. And as you go, you can get it up to higher clearance levels. So it can get into more and more secure places. And you have to do like little side actions to get there. And depending on how you equip your units, they might blend in more with the normal androids, and the humans might not notice that there's anything special about them. Or you can not worry about that and be much more overt, and it's kind of your choice depending on how you equip your units and which ones you use. And then eventually you also unlock a bunch of different types of vehicles, so for flying around and doing combat or supporting you in different ways. And let's look at, say, like this one is an interesting one, this senior technician. So it's actually a representative of our shell company. So you can set up like shell companies, and it can go out and buy resources for you or interact with humans, pretending to be something completely unrelated to your actual AI empire, which the humans are aware of, because one of the first things you do is you build this giant tower that's very visible. And so part of the game is playing like a city builder. So these are the buildings I've unlocked so far. There's a pretty big variety of stuff. Some of it's to build out your network. Some of them are to gather different types of resources. One of the interesting things you can do is you can house humans. So there's a bunch of homeless humans, because this is a dystopian world, and also some of your actions will create more homeless people by destroying buildings or forcing them out of places. And then you can build up these like shelters and apartments to house them, and you can choose to, feed them and keep them happy. And then you might also use them for more nefarious purposes later. I don't know if you've ever seen The Matrix, but use your imagination there of where it could go. Because in this game, you can absolutely be a benevolent AI that's like here to save humanity from themselves, and you can also just murder people like from the first moment. And it's totally up to you, and your actions are going to play out in different ways towards different victory paths you can go down. So if we look here, there's timeline goals. So like I said, you'll play multiple timelines. There are these dooms, which are like in-game apocalypses that will pop up every 100 turns till you get to 1,000 turns, and that's the last one where it's the final doom. But then the game hints that even if you fail, like my overall goal right now is to reach intelligence class 4, so like upgrade my intelligence to another level. And it even says here that I probably won't get there before the final doom on this timeline, which is kind of interesting to be like, hey, here's your next goal after the tutorial. You're going to fail to reach it, but go ahead and try. And then it does make it clear though that there is gameplay after that final doom, so you can hit the apocalypse and then keep going, which is interesting. I want to get there just to see what that is. But as you're playing, you're also unlocking more stuff. So we have like some research things to choose from. And then the source of these research items comes from interacting with the world. So the game will help you highlight like things you can go out and do. You can, just an example, like an early game one is it highlights like these little scenarios you can go and send one of your androids to do. And one of them was like there's like a gang member just sitting on a corner kind of thing, and you can send your android in to like steal their gun, and it can be to like take it from them by force or just like intimidate them into giving it to you. Or there's like a soldier somewhere who's wearing some armor, and you can get the armor from them in one way or another, and then you bring that back, and then that gives you like an inspiration as your AI to say, oh, I found this armor, I can like create my own or make it better, or make some new kind of android off of the idea that you get from interacting with the world. And there's so many things like that. Like a really random one was like the apiary that you can get from observing some bees, and then you can create bees if you want to, and so that gives you there's a weapon you can get from creating like weaponized bees. That's like a random one, but also that's how you get a lot of your units, is by like capturing the human ones and then creating your own versions of them. And so it's a really cool mechanic, and it like fits with the world of like, you're this AI that's super smart and can compute things really fast, but you're still learning about the world around you. And so the more you go out and do all these little side quest things, the more options you get. And then also that's how you work towards those different victory conditions, is by exploring those things. And then some of them will indicate to you that this is helping you get towards whichever victory condition or goal. And I'm not sure what absolute victory looks like in this game, or is it just trying to explore all those different goals and see what happens as you go. It's almost like spoilers to talk about just some of the mechanics in this game, because it's so interesting how it plays out from the beginning. But anyway, I think I've talked about it enough. I wanted to keep this video from getting too long, and so the next video will be, I'll start back over at the beginning, and it'll be kind of like spoiler warning, but this is how the game plays out from the beginning, and you can make your own choices when you play through, but I'll try to like show you how I played through it, how I learned to think about the game, because you have to kind of think about it in a different way than some games, just different approaches, like how do I make progress. The game has a really extended tutorial that tells you for the most part, but also like even for me, I had to play it 2 or 3 times before I fully grasped it, and it becomes easier, but you have to kind of think differently of like how you're using your units and how you're interacting with the world. So I'll play through it, give you my thoughts on how I learned to play the game, and how I thought about building stuff out, and then strategies, and then get you through that tutorial and then into chapter 2, where the game opens way up, and maybe we'll explore some of those larger goals. But whenever you reach that point in your playthrough, of course, it's so open and expansive that you'll probably want to do something differently. But be sure, if you want to see that playthrough of the tutorial, get kind of a beginner's guide to Heart of the Machine, make sure you hit subscribe, hit like if you like this video, and I'll see you next time. Thanks.